Yes, we are live. Hello, viewers.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. Okay, so as you join us, please feel free to share, ask your questions. I can tell you our guest is ready. She's got a lot for us. So just a brief about our guest. Our guest is Bukola Jolugbo of Joshua's Army, fondly called Kiki. Okay, she's got over 5 years experience in this matter. So I'm looking forward to hearing her.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll just give us a brief about her. She has been in the trenches researching what it takes to turn boys into world-class leaders and fathers, and working with busy professionals, celebrities, and high-impact parents to build better relationships with their sons. She's the host of the first and only summit for parenting teenage boys called Today's Teen Boys Summit. Kiki is the trainer of the international workshop, Why Do Boys Act the Way They Do? And the founder of Joshua's Army, a movement devoted to building high-quality relationships between fathers and their sons. Kiki has a background as a business process improvement engineer and brings that expertise to bear in her work with boys and their parents to create life-changing processes that promote family environments that support the healthy development of boys into world-class leaders. We'll be hearing more about her work shortly. Yeah. She's married to the love of her life, Mr. Bukola Jolugbo, and they have two amazing world leaders in the making. She also holds the world record as perhaps the best gra person in the world. So we'll be telling us what that means in a second. Yeah, so we'll just get our host on now. Where are you, Kiki?
Okay. Drum roll.
Yes, it's up. Thank you for coming.
You know what I mean by best word gra person. There is never a dull moment with me. You see,
I can testify to that.
So it's good to have you here. Tell us a bit about your work. I know I've just read your profile, but best from the horse's mouth.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, viewers. I'm gonna make you jealous now. These two are two of my very few favorite people on earth. I love these two guys to bits, and you know they hold it. Don't worry, Mr. Jolugbo knows that we're like families. We've been together for so many years, and you know I'm just so grateful to God for the journey He's brought us together on, and where we started from.
Yes.
In fact, when I flash back, I'm just like, it could have no one else but God. It's only been God in our journey and on our journey with us. Yes, my name is Bukola, fondly called Kiki. And yes, I think the first one I would introduce myself, or the first thing I like to say is that I'm married to the love of my life, to the only man that can marry me on planet Earth, Mr. Bukola. And yes, and we're blessed with two amazing boys. Well, they don't like us calling them boys anymore because they're becoming men.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. So, but yeah, they're wonderful and amazing. They made the journey so easy. And I always say that they're my testing grounds on every research and everything I do on Joshua's Army. By the grace of God, Joshua's Army will be 5 years in July. Yes, by the grace of God. Exactly, to God's glory. And we've been on the journey of, you know, raising boys who would become world-class leaders, who would take over the world. Like we say, Joshua's Army. We're raising armies. We're raising an army of men that will become world-class leaders and fathers. And we also work together with fathers who would to be able to ensure they have a good relationship with their sons. You would agree with me that there is no better person to do something other than the person that has had the experience. So there is no better person to raise boys other than men who have been through that path. And that's why we're so particular about men. And lately, well, during the pandemic about a year ago, I just found out that a lot of parents, not just mothers now, I mean, not just fathers, were coming, and so many questions and everything. And I just went to study for more about consulting for parents of teenage boys. And that's the first work I did with that, is the Parenting Today's Teenage Boys Summit. And by the grace of God, that summit was boom. Dr. Victor was the speaker. We had over 270 parents attend that summit, and that means there is a need for it. We need to see. Our teenage boys are wonderful, and we're all out, to help make sure they have a secure future.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'll just jump straight to the first question we have for you. In your experience, you just told us about your work at Joshua Journey. In your experience, what are some of the common issues men often complain about regarding their relationship with their sons?
Okay, there's common issues. I think, like I said, during the pandemic, I began to get more exposure to not just parents, fathers and sons, or focus on sons like it's been. A lot of parents and mothers were coming up. And one of the most common thing I get from parents of teenage boys, be it mothers, be it fathers, that they complain about this dynamic relationship is: 1, communication. 2, forgive me if you're a mom, don't trust us. 1, communication. 2, standards. The father and the son standard, the standard of living, the standard of their lives. And again, they complain a lot about the boys' work ethics. And most importantly, this is the most common one, and it's common across every father I've spoken to. They complain about us, mom.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yes, very interesting. They complain about us, mom. So all of these things are, when they begin to come in bit by bit, begin to strain the relationship of the father and the son, particularly when there is no early intervention. And that's why we see that most fathers just go, you know what? I hang the coats. I can't, and yeah. So
okay, I would ask, what is it about women they complain about? What exactly?
Good question.
Good. Yeah, thank you very much for that question. And I was actually expecting that question. What is it about us mom that they complain about? Now, we moms, we women we're emotional beings. Okay. Fathers they are figures and facts. Men are figures and facts. They're what they see. We work with our emotions. And so when a child, and if you look at it, when a boy is growing up, there is this tie between mom and son that nobody understands. Even it's been there from the world go, this tie. There is the tie between father and son, but the one between mom and son, a lot of the times, we moms, now I'm a mother of 2 boys by the grace of God, and I'm going to be very sincere and vulnerable. A lot of the times, we make the mistake of not paying attention. So when our sons come in, right from a very early age, rather than being sons to dad, we turn our sons to rivals with that.
Okay.
And how? Paying attention. When a woman has a child, you want to sleep. Your child will sleep next to you. Your child, in fact, when I had my first child, it wasn't only sleeping next to me, it was sleeping in the middle. And that one day I woke up and I saw that we had this very large king size bed. One day I woke up and I saw that my husband has lifted the boy to the other side next to me. And I was wondering why. And when the boy woke up in the middle of the night, after I fed him, I put him back in the middle unconsciously. And then my husband got up and he didn't say anything. If you know my husband, he's a man of very few words. He got carries the boy and put on the other side. And I didn't say anything. I just left the boy there. But I didn't ask any question, but I felt, why is this man doing this? But he's our son. He's his son, And I think I left it like that. I'm a very deliberate person. I left it like that. I think after a couple of weeks, I tried it again and he did the same thing. And that was when I said, what's happening? He said, because it is me and you and then the boy.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Do you understand? And we talked about it and I got an understanding that, okay, to me, that's not what I was seeing. That's not what I was doing, but that's what it meant to the boy. So why am I telling the story? A lot of the times we forget to look at things from the perspective of the father as mothers. And so we unknowingly build that wall between the fathers and the son. Now, Uncle Victor, if every day I come to your house, I'm taking your wife out, I'm hugging her, cooking, we're eating together, and I even forget to say hello to you, no matter how much you love me. So at some point to be like, hey, mama, I know you are my sister, but you know that. So automatically it just comes up with the men. And like you said earlier on, men are they are people, they are moved by what they see. Truth and facts. That's what they go with. Facts and facts and figures. But so long as I can cuddle my child, I can't even remember. So that's one of the things that come back. And unfortunately, as the boy begins to grow older, when that is not taken care of, then that's defense. We begin to build a defense around our boys. And that's when it becomes that dad do not have access to the son except us.
Thank you.
Most times, before you know it, the relationship is broken down. Now, that's not the only reason why there is a breakdown in most father-son relationship, but it's a factor.
Okay.
And I'm stressing on it because so that we as women can think and do some reflection.
Okay. That's very robust. Thank you for that. I'll just very quickly, can you touch on standards? You mentioned standards earlier. What do you mean by that?
Okay. What do I mean by standard? The standard of living, the standard of life. The father is looking at the son and is expecting a particular standard. Remember, I mentioned communication as well. Now, these two are intertwined. You're looking at your son and you're expecting a particular standard of the boy. On the other hand, the boy have his own expectation. But when the communication gap is being built, when the communication gap is not being mended, when there is no free flow of communication, there is no way I can understand or even know what your standards are, let alone live by them. Again, a lot of the times, this is now not just to fathers, but to us as parents, a lot of the times, we build or create a standard for our children, not thinking about they, as in these children. And so this child has his own understanding, particularly when they're becoming teenagers. They have their own mindset. We've trained them, think for yourself, be a man for yourself, be strong, have a mind of your own. And then when they begin to exhibit this in their own way, remember the communication line wasn't there. So I've not been able to communicate as a father my standard or my beliefs to the child. The child gets to a particular age and begins to exhibit his own self-made standards or values or beliefs. The father, then there begins to be a clash because this is not what I expect of my son. Why is he doing this? And then before you know it, there is always a clash between them. And there is disagreement.
I absolutely agree with you because I've seen that play out in many relationships with people that are close to me. Because I think sometimes fathers have these expectations that are not communicated. So they have these ideas in their head. This is how, my father didn't do this. I am going to do this. But we're not communicating it to our own children and then getting a buy-in. Because like what you said, the child has a perspective of what he wants to do. The father has a perspective of what he wants to do. But, people are not interacting and say, this is why this is important. And at the end of the day, there is this conflict. You know, I'm kind of bouncing back what you've said. You know, that sometimes our wives don't really help because, you know, some wives may say, oh, he's being too harsh on my son. So she becomes overly protective,
exactly.
And then that also triggers on more conflict. I think that's
and even other than the fact that he's being too harsh on my son. It is my son. Do you understand? You know that thing. Is my son, mine. Do you understand? And that's why when I work with parents that I see that there is this kind of thing, I say my son, my husband says my son. In fact, when my husband wants to talk to me about the boys, he goes, Bukola, your son. And when I want to tell him, I say, Mubalaji, your son. We're talking to you, we say, oh, our son or my, do you understand? But we ask a lot amongst ourselves. So when I'm talking to them and I know this is happening, I tell them, I said, stop using my son. Change it to our son. Because the more you say it, the more you build it into your subconscious. And then you begin to play it out and stop caging the boy to yourself.
Absolutely. I'll just ask one more question and then we'll move on. So what will you recommend fathers to do in terms of what can they do to really strengthen their relationship with their boys?
Okay, thank you very much for that. What can fathers do to strengthen the relationship with the boys? The first thing is be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Now, a lot of fathers, with all due respect to our own fathers, our own fathers, a lot of them did not have a relationship with sons. So even these fathers are struggling because they don't know how. They never had it, so they don't know how. Now, I read an article about a week or two ago about a guy, can't remember his name now, but he was talking about when before he became a father, how is so much the issues between himself and his father, and how he didn't like his father. I don't want to use the word detest, but he didn't like his father. There were issues, and when he got married, he found out that he was going to be a father and he wanted to resolve the issues between himself and his father. He went to his father to try and resolve it. Unfortunately, the father didn't care, and the relationship just went away like that. Now, when he had a child, his own child, he had written down all of the things he's not going to do with his son. And unfortunately, he found himself replaying exactly what his father did. Now, he had written them down. But why was he replaying what his father did to him, to his son? Because it is not just about writing them down. Remember, I said, tell yourself the truth, which is the place of writing them down. Now, it goes beyond the place of writing down. But what are you doing? What practical steps are you taking towards ensuring that I do something better? You have identified there is a problem in your relationship with your son. What are you doing about it? There's this thing, I'm from West Africa, Nigeria, and I'm Yoruba. There is this bad culture we have in Yoruba that we're so quick to blaming others for whatever happens to us. And my pastor once said that it's an irresponsible man that puts the responsibility of his life on another person, be it man or woman. So the second thing you do is take responsibility for that relationship. Now, you have told yourself the truth. You have identified the actions you need to take. Take responsibility. And if you need help, ask for help.
Absolutely.
I say my husband is a man of very few words. Because of my passion for boys, I do a lot of research. I read a lot about parenting boys, about boys. And a lot of the times, my husband will come and say, I remember when my son was going to be 18. I told my husband, I said, oh, this boy will be 18. What are the plans? My husband said, what should be the plan, mama boys? Because I know that you know what I should do. what should I do? Does that make sense? He's a man. And then I told him, okay, this is what you can do, this is what you can do. And then we itemized everything. And he said, okay, I will do this. You help me do this. I will do this. Okay, can you help me do this? And we did all of that. And he had his time with the boys, going through what we have agreed. Ask for help when you need it. It's a strong man or someone with good self-esteem that seeks help when they need help.
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. I like something that you said in terms of, both of you agreeing and having like a template of what you want. Because I noticed that sometimes parents kind of have also their own perspective. So the wife has a perspective or how she wants her son to look like. The man has a certain way around discipline, for example. So when people don't harness this, that sometimes there's a friction. So I like what you say in terms of you guys agreed and say, okay, now we've reached this threshold of 18 years.
Yeah.
What do we want to do going forward? What kind of a man do we want to create? What kind of a man do we want to mold for the next phase of his life? And that's really something that, if you're watching, it would be nice for parents to also take on board. Don't assume that what you think or your perspective or your expectation are the same with your husband's. Always discuss this and fine-tune this. You might find out that you guys have slightly different perspective, and then you can improve on that.
And our relationship builders firm just said asking for help is something that people in our community find difficult to do.
Yeah,
asking for help. So I like that you even pointed out that he asked you, what do we do? So
yeah. And I actually really appreciated that he asked when I said, oh, this boy is turning 18. I said, okay, what do you think I should do? And then by the time we got talking, we brought, in fact, amazingly, off that conversation, I built a framework for boys between 17 and 21 years old.
Absolutely.
Do you understand? Off that conversation, these are the things that we need our son to begin to pay attention to.
Awesome.
And you know what? I'm going to say this to parents, to mothers. When you give the father of that child, the opportunity to do that, the truth of the matter is, it makes life easy for you. So it becomes a win-win. So when things that you cannot even handle yourself, that you know that you need a masculine authority to handle, and you throw it to his desk, he would gladly pick it up because he's used to doing it.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you for that. Okay. We've seen cases where sometimes some sons grow to resent their fathers. Now, why do you think this is?
That's a very interesting question. Why do sons resent their fathers? Remember earlier on we talked about what fathers complain about sons. Now, during the pandemic, well, we didn't know the pandemic was even going to be that long. I think it was in June when we're preparing for the parenting summit. I did a survey with teenage boys. 10 teenage boys on our list. I just sent them and said, tell me 2 things you wish dad could change. And so that's one of the questions. The second question was, do you how many hours do you spend in different parts of the house? Where I was actually going to was, how many hours do you spend in your room? Or I just put different or in different parts of the house, your room and the common areas of the house. And the answer was a lot of hours in the room. And the next question was, and why?
Right.
Now, the why is one thing I understand, that to be the reason why boys tend to I don't want to use the word resent. Get angry with dad. Get angry with dad. And 2 reasons I pointed out was, 1, communication. 2, communication.
Okay.
We said earlier on that when we don't the fathers, when you don't communicate your expectations to your son, you don't communicate the standard that you want, you expect the child to live by, then there becomes there will be issues, there will be conflicts all over. And the boys are wondering, why does he talk to me like that? Why can't he talk to me like I'm a human being? Because Dad is angry. There was a time I put something on my social media. I said, why does your son avoid you? I put 5 reasons. And one of the reasons I said is because I said, you've corrected him. It needs time to reflect. And then I can't remember, but 2 reasons is, one, it needs time to reflect. Another one is that he is not sure if you have the emotional capacity to handle what just happened.
Yeah.
A lot of us adults or fathers do not have the emotional capacity to handle the sons. And when the son sees that I have the emotional capacity to handle this thing that Dad is doing, why can't he give me that gap and build the capacity to handle me? Now, I've seen it, particularly teenage boys, they are in a phase in their life. I tell parents, there was parents I was working with, I said, close your eyes, forget about this 16-year-old boy we're talking about. Now, reflect back to 14 years ago when he was 2. How did you handle him? There's this thing when my son was going to be 2, they said, oh, it's coming to the terrible 2s. I said, no. It's coming to the terrific 2s.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But that's what the world call it, because at the age of 2, gosh, but did you allow him grow? Or did you break him? Now, this is another critical stage of development that even the child is not sure of who he is. Are you going to allow him grow or break him? Do you have the emotional capacity to help the child? I said something, 2 things they complain about, communication and communication. Inside this communication, ability to manage your anger, ability to manage the things fathers say to their sons, ability to develop your emotional capacity to be able to sustain the relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There was an interview I did some time ago. I will never forget what this man said. He said, we have a generation of broken people trying to fix people.
Wow.
Because these children are already fixed. If we fix ourselves, we'll all be able to work together fixed. But when a broken person is trying to fix a fixed person, what happens? That person becomes broken.
Absolutely.
And then that broken person goes on to break another fixed person. And that's why and that's one thing, our boys are struggling with. Why can't Dad have that emotional capacity to see me through the stage of my life?
Fantastic. One key thing I like that you said here is basically, as fathers, we must become the kind of individuals that can raise the kind of men we want to see. It's one thing to say, I want you to be this, I want you to, but you don't have the emotional capacity to raise that kind of a man. For example, if you look at Obama's daughters, the kind of girls that they are becoming, is amazing, in the sense that, the kind of father they have is really transforming things. So as men, we must be able to have that situation where we are able to raise we become the kind of men that we want to raise, because you can't give what you don't have. Basically. So the want to go on?
Okay. So
what just came in?
Okay, thank you.
Oh, we have a guest, right? That's fine.
Okay, so what's your advice then to families where there are some recurring issues like promiscuity? Because sometimes you see these things affect the relationship. And I'll give an example. Sometimes a teenage boy might say, like you were saying earlier, that hasn't met the standards. And I think you pointed, you touched on that earlier. That hasn't met the standards he wants me to live up to. Now I've seen that do certain things. So he more or less, that hasn't earned that respect. So what advice would you be giving in a situation like that?
To the family, right? Not to the boy.
To the family. You can touch on both, really, because the boy is just as important.
Okay, thank you. So to the family now, I'll start off with to the parents, to mom and dad. When there is that kind of trend in the family, I think the first thing you do, again, I go back to telling yourself the truth. And then once you identify the truth, seek help. So one of our guests here earlier on said, or viewer said, that seeking help is one thing we don't do in our community. Now, we're not just talking about our community, we're talking to everybody. Seek help. When we seek help, we're able to fix things easier. But tell yourself the truth. And guess what? Tell that child the truth as well. There's this thing I said to parents. I said, when you try to hide the truth from your child, the joke is on you, because they know the truth already. They know you're struggling. They know this thing is happening. Like we talked about it earlier on. Does father have the emotional capacity to handle this thing? It's a case of calling the boy. You know what, son? I am struggling with this thing. I am struggling with this thing, but I'm gonna fix it. I'm on a journey to fix it. And I'm going to fix it. And I'm inviting you on to fix it with me. There's something my husband told my sons one day. He said, my older son, in fact, he started driving now. And when he drives me, I go, you're driving, this driving, I don't like the way you just drove there. He goes, that's exactly the way my dad drives. And I said, this is where your dad's driving. You people stop driving me. I think it's particularly when they want to overtake. Even my husband. And that's the way the boy does it. So when at some point my husband said to me, there was that, I think yesterday or today, my husband was driving, and I pointed it out to him again. I said, this is the way your son is already overtaking. He said, okay, I need to talk to him about that. And I said, I think you should. And as you talk to him, please correct it, particularly when I'm in the car with you, because I don't like it. And we laughed over it. But this is something you have identified that it's wrong, and you're beginning to see the pattern. While you work on it on yourself, be open, be sincere with the child. And there's this thing my father used to say, that learn how not to do it. The fact that I'm doing it like this, if it's not going to work, don't do it. My father will say, don't do it that way, because I am struggling not to do it that way. So it's not all of the times I'll be able to show you the exact blueprint for your own life. But when I make the mistakes, I am open enough to make the boy learn and see that I have made a mistake. Don't do that. Another thing that we can do as families when we see this pattern happening in our lives is, I said, seek help, be open, discuss it with the child. 3, consciously work on yourself. Do not give the excuse that I am 50 years old, so there's nothing I can do. We can always improve. Consciously work on yourself as a parent, and let the child see that you're working on yourself. And then it allows for improvement. But above all, I think one thing that I will hold on to is being truthful and taking responsibility for it. The pattern, but it can be broken.
Wow, that's a very powerful thing. So what you're saying is that fatherhood or parenting is a skill that can be learned. Because if you're talking about continuous improvement, means that you can be, maybe you are, if you rate yourself from 0 to 10, 0 being the least, 10 being the highest, maybe you are a 2. You can move from a 2 to a 5. So it's something that you can learn and can develop. Well, I'd like to ask a question.
And sorry, before you go on, there is this thing I learned from you. Victor, so many years ago, you said that you do an appraisal from time to time of yourself. Now, and I look at it, when we are in the office, we sit down with our bosses and we have this conversation before we are promoted. You know, I like to bring the way the office structure to the house a lot, because it's running and businesses are going and they're making profits. You know, the one is an organization as well. So I look at myself a lot of the times now to families. This is another point I'm just going to add. Do appraisals. Sit down, ask the child. Your children are the best people to give feedback, because they do not lie. They will tell you the way it is. Sit back, ask them. We hold family meetings and we go around the table. Who is leading? You know, when my youngest son is leading, he comes and he says, "Dad," my husband will say, "What did I do?" I say, "I don't know." Even me, I'm waiting for my own mom. But, you know, be ready to listen and learn from them. Get feedback from them. Not too long ago, I asked my son a question. I said, tell me 3 things I did when you were a child that you could remember, you know, between 13 and 18, that you could remember that you wish, I wish mom never did that.
That's a powerful question.
That's good.
I can't go back to that.
Yes.
So that's an opportunity for me to reflect and be able to explain, have a conversation with him. This is what happened. Okay, I remember. And we had that conversation. And he goes, "Never mind. I knew you were going to explain. But it's no hard feelings. I know why you did it." You know, but already I know that next time, you know, if there's be a next time. And again, I've been able to point it out to him that maybe that's something you should never say to your child as well. It's not going to work.
Wow.
So have that appraisal and have that, you know, feedback session with them. Listen without getting angry to them.
You know, when you said something about having to speak to the child about what you're going through as a parent, I think Relationship Builders just stole the thoughts from me when someone there wrote down, being vulnerable can be quite challenging.
Absolutely.
Because it takes a lot of vulnerability for you to open up and say, "Oh, this is what I'm going through." And really, how many fathers can do that?
But you know, we said earlier on, mending the gap and ensuring that communication channel is open all of the times. So if that communication channel is open between you and your son, communication is a bedrock of a relationship. When there is a free flow of communication, there will be trust. And that's when you can be vulnerable with the person. It's just like, you know, spouses. If you talk, you know, there is that free flow of communication, then I will trust you and I will be vulnerable. You know, and then when you know that you're shaping a destiny, vulnerability you will not even think about it, because you know you are on an assignment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not about you, it's about this child, the destiny. And like I said to fathers or to parents, it's about this child, the destiny you're shaping, and the accounts you will give. A lot of us, we don't live our lives with our children. We think when the Bible says you will give account, it's just a account about how I preach to God. No, even how you live with your wife, you will give account. So when you live with that consciousness that what account am I going to give about this child? It will be easier to be vulnerable because you know you're accountable.
Awesome. I was just going to say something about, you know, one key thing about vulnerability is also you intentionally creating that atmosphere that your child can tell you stuff. Because sometimes some parents from BAME background always have this perspective, if I can use that word, you know, always have this perspective that I am the parent, I know more than you, and you can't say anything. And that energy and that intention that parents bring make you are telling the child, tell me, how well am I doing? They are looking at you that you are just setting the trap for me. Whatever I say can be used against me. They cut off.
In the court of family.
The child is just looking at that. You can't even handle what I'm going to tell you. So let's know that this is just formality. So parents need to be able to create an atmosphere where your child can really tell you something and your ego can handle it. Yeah. You will not be hurt to begin to become vindictive or begin to withdraw opportunities or withdraw, things that you're supposed to do.
Due to your child.
You know that you used to give it to the child and say, okay, that's what we are going to do. No, you don't need that kind of atmosphere.
No, and just to add to what you just said, there is I don't really like our Yoruba adage, but there is this Yoruba adage that says that it is the wisdom of the young and the old that was used to build the famous city of Ile-Ife.
Wow.
I will just leave that.
What that means.
Sorry?
So tell me what that means.
Okay, I was going to leave it there. The wisdom, what your husband said something about, us adults from particularly from our background, thinking we know it all and not listening to the child. The wisdom of the child and of the parents is a good combination to build a solid family.
Absolutely.
It's a very good combination to bring together. And there's something I've realized in my 18 plus years of parenting. Our children are loaded with wisdom.
Absolutely.
Our children are wise. Particularly our boys. They are wise. They are deep. And that's why you see them hide away in their rooms, hide away from us, because of how deep they are. So when we are humble enough to listen and glean from them, you will be amazed what is embedded, what is in the container of that child called a teenage boy or a boy in your house. There is a lot inside of them. So it's bring the wisdom of the child, bring your wisdom as adults, and build the solid foundation of the home on it. And you will be amazed what the results will be.
Okay, so thank you for that. Thank you. You mentioned the Ile-Ife. That's why I wanted to people can understand where you're coming from.
Okay.
So how can fathers actively engage with their sons? We've touched on, boys resenting their fathers, but how can fathers actively engage with these boys?
Okay, how can fathers actively engage with their boys? That's a very beautiful question. Come to that and I dinner.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so our viewers may not know what that is, so tell us about it.
Tell us about it.
I'll tell you about that later, but let's get serious.
Nice.
Okay, how can fathers actively engage with their sons? I was talking about a story I read, a research paper actually that I read earlier on, and the question they asked 100 fathers is, what is the thing you desire most for your son? And this research was in US actually, and out of, I think 89% said the thing they desire most for their sons is for their sons to live a happy life. Now, inside of that leading a happy life, there is a lot of, it's heavy, it's massive. But how can fathers now begin to live a healthy relationship with this? If we don't live a healthy relationship with our sons, there is a likelihood that happy life will never happen. Because the son will leave the home and become a struggling man, which is what we see a lot today. We're struggling inside of us. There's this thing a lot of us say, and that's the way I was raised. And that after all, I am here today. And I go, you are here today. Are you here the way you should be here today? Or you are just here and existing? There's difference between being here and living and then being here and existing. Now to the question, how can fathers, so I'm going to say, how can fathers help their children grow so that they can have a healthy and a happy life? That is, how can you, amend your relationship with your son? Because their healthy and happy life starts from the home. One, back to it. Be vulnerable with yourself. Tell yourself the truth. And then consciously rip yourself off of all of those things, all of those beliefs. Like, oh, my dad did this, my dad did that. Let's get them off ourselves, first of all, and then become a child. When I think about parenting, I'm like, we become adults, and there are so many things that are going on in our lives, so many challenges, so many bills, so many things to think about. But when you are a child, all of those worries are not there. And look at it, Uncle Victor, you have a toddler. When you're playing with that young man, who are you? That's a question. Or is it mom that wants to answer? No, I think dad should answer that question. When you are playing with a young man in your house, who is about between 1 to 3 years old, who do you become?
Well, I have to become like a little child.
Exactly.
To connect with him.
Become a child to connect with that child. Mend the relationship between you and your teenager. Become a teenager.
Yes.
Go back to where you were when you were a teenager. There was a questionnaire during the summit that we did last year. Remember, I said there were about 270 people in and out of that summit. There was a survey I did during the summit, and I said, how long ago did you think teenagers have become a problem? Viewers, please answer that question. How long ago did you think teenagers have become a problem?
Let's hear from you, viewers. Okay.
Me, I'm a very, my introduction. If you don't answer, I will not go on.
We can carry you.
How long ago do you think teenagers have become a problem? For as long as teenagers have existed. When I was a teenager, the adults then complained about us. When our parents were teenagers, the adults then complained about them. So teenagers have become problems. Things.
Okay, so one of our viewers now said it depends. What do you mean by it depends?
How do you mean by it depends? Teenagers have become problems since the teenagers have been. Everybody, my father. Hey, my father was a community daddy. All of us teenagers when we're growing up. In fact, if I put anything on Facebook now, those of us that we grew up together, you see what they will be saying about my father. The good thing is, my father is slightly different because God bless him, because he was really helpful in shaping us. But teenagers have been teenagers because this development in our brain is always there. And the best way to relate with somebody, like we said earlier on, is becoming that child. Relate with them, read about them, understand what is going on in their brain. Another way for fathers to, since Adam, thank you. That's a very good word. Another way for fathers to mend the relationship between they and their sons is, we've said, think about them, become like them.
Yeah.
Now, okay, I've lost my trail of thought. That person that wrote like Adam.
That's good. Let's just go.
Become like them, think like them. And there is something very important I was going to say, other than being vulnerable. It will come back to me. But really, for you as a parent to be able to relate, yes, stop complaining about them. Quit. That's the one I was going to say. When you're a teenager, there was a time myself and my husband, we said, let's see, my youngest son said something. Like I said, I learned from my children a lot. There was time I said something not too long ago. I said, parenting is a school you go to that you learn every day
Hmm.
as a teacher from the students for free. So if you do not maximize that learning, you are shortchanging yourself.
Mm.
And I can't remember what my younger son said. He is somebody, one of his love language is word of affirmations. And I think he felt he wasn't getting enough of it. And we now said, okay, let's count how many times we correct him and how many times we tell him we affirm what anything good he does this week.
Mhm.
And we actually found out that correction was more.
Okay.
And for this particular child, it's not going to work. We need to flip it.
Wonderful.
And then we made the conscious effort to flip it.
Mm.
Guess what happened, Uncle Victor?
Mm.
This boy was in year 9 or so, or year 10, when this conversation happened.
Mm.
And one of the flipping, no, it was in year 8, 9, 8 or so, 8, 9. One of the flipping was when my husband is reading, my husband loves to read. When my husband is reading all his books on the table, the boy will sit on the table and read with him. And then they will talk and then he will commend the boy and everything. We made that plan ourselves. The boy went from a U in maths. You know what a U is if you're in the UK? A U is like as good as F9 in Nigeria or Africa. It went from a U in maths in one term to a B
Wow.
That's
in
amazing.
one term.
Wow.
From when he did this exam, half-term exam,
Yeah.
and to the end of term exam,
Hmm.
Wow.
by just that simple flip. You see why I say that we should learn from them
Mm.
and just by just that flip.
Hmm.
Wow.
And from that flip again, I can't remember the last time I reminded this boy to read.
Wow.
He's reading in the kitchen now. When I finish and I walk past the kitchen, I'll go, well done. Would you like a cup of tea? Oh, yes, mom. That's
Wow.
all I need.
Mm.
Learn to see the good in them
Mm.
Hmm.
and do the flip.
Wow.
It's amazing what
Hmm.
it does to our sons.
Wow.
Why do they stay in the room? When they walk past you on the staircase,
Hmm.
what's the first thing that comes out of our mouth? By default,
Hmm.
now, I am saying this.
Hmm.
I am not sorry I am saying this.
Hmm.
Maybe if he hits you wrongly, I am sorry the way it will hit you. But by default, our fathers are used to the first thing they say when they see their teenage son is to complain.
Hmm.
Flip it for 1 week and
Hmm.
see the transformation it will
Wow.
it will create in your son's life.
Wow.
When you open his room door, no matter how untidy that room is,
Hmm.
close your eyes, your ears, and your nose to it and just check on them.
Wonderful.
When you do that for 3 nights,
Hmm.
by the 4th night you go into that room, you will see an improvement.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
It's just flipping.
Hmm.
And then you know what? For those of us that wear glasses, when you look on the floor, the things Uncle Victor will not see, the dirt he won't see on your floor, you will see it quicker because of what you're wearing.
Hmm.
Change what your lens is focusing on.
Hmm.
Just like for us spouses, change what your lens is focusing on.
Hmm.
I come in, I see the dirt on the floor, but there is that patch where it's clean. That part is where I'm going to focus on, and that's what we maximize. And before you know it, it will spread across the floor, and you begin to see the beauty of the child.
Amazing. 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 It's up to us to build the right atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's up to us to be intentional.
God bless you.
Yes.
God bless you. It's
Yes,
up to us to build the right atmosphere. And it just solves the problem. There's somebody that I worked with that would say during the pandemic, and she comes, herself and her husband, and they use this adage. Yorubas, they have a lot of adages. Some are very good. Some I'm like, hello. And this particular one is, very funny, but I'm going to try to translate it in English that because I want to eat beef, I'm not going to call the cow or kneel down to say hello to the cow or call the cow uncle, auntie, or mister or sir. Does that make sense? So basically, because of what I want to eat, because of what I want to enjoy, I'm not going to stoop too low.
Yeah, I won't lose my dignity.
I won't lose my dignity. And this person keeps saying, I'm not going to call the cow a sir. I'm not going to call the cow a sir. Practically every time we come online, I was trying to curtail myself because they're a lot older than I am. They were I was consulting with them because of their teenage boy. One day she said that, and I said, hold on. Who is the cow? Who is the meat? And she said, because I want him to be this, I'm not going to do that. I said, that means you're raising a cow. Then that's the end of this conversation. Until you stop seeing him as a cow, he won't stop behaving as a cow.
Right.
And she said, is that what I've been doing? I said, exactly. So take that thing off your mind, shift your focus, and let's see. 2 weeks later, she called me and said, my son came downstairs and was discussing the Bible with me. I can't believe it. And I said, because he's no longer a cow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so instructive. People live up to, I think I read it somewhere, people live up to the expectation you have of them.
Exactly. Whether you say it to them or not. You are beautiful.
They can feel it in your disposition. They can see it in your eyes, in the tone of your voice, that you don't really expect much from them. And so they live up to that expectation. And that's how sometimes...
Have you ever been in a situation whereby you sit down and you're thinking something and somebody says it?
Exactly.
And you say, oh, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Wow. Exactly.
You don't always have the spirit mind.
Exactly. People pick things, in the realm of the spirit. Absolutely.
One of our peers just said, words become your reality.
Absolutely. Man,
your words and your thoughts become your reality.
Amazing. Now, I have one other question. I think you
might... I wanted to ask, because sometimes we see fathers who are concerned about not meeting up, and that makes them aloof.
That's what I'm...
Okay. Maybe because I wouldn't want to do so much and then I'm caught in the process or called out in the process. What would you say to such men?
Who is calling you out? That's the first thing. You are the one calling yourself out. And there's this joke that my nephew or said when he had his first son. And he said, sis, my mom didn't tell me I didn't come with a manual. like, okay, what does that mean? He said, this child, when he's crying, I don't know what he wants. What will I open to say, okay, he's crying, change diaper. If he cries this way. A lot of the times we say that these children do not come with manners. So for that, allow yourself. The other day, I bought a juicer and we opened the box. There was no manual. And I said, I just left it for my husband to come and deal with it. He came and he was trying to say, how can there not be manual? I said, if you can't fix it, let me return it. This gift, this package, they didn't come with user's guide. Right? But the truth of the matter is you can't return them. So you have to find a way. But then again, they came with a kind of user's guide that it takes you to bring out and discover is a treasure hunt that you're doing, to discover in them. First of all, as fathers, stop beating yourself. You are on a journey. Imagine when you, Uncle Victor, I don't know why I keep calling you Uncle Victor. It's what we do behind your
That's all right.
Dr. Victor, imagine when you went on your doctorate journey. it was a gradual thing. And I remember the day we were talking about it, and you said, you know, the times where you wake up and say, gosh, who sent me? But what did you do? Sorry?
Who sent me on this journey? I was just echoing when you said
Exactly. Who sent you on this? But what did you do? You would dust yourself and go back and check and continue. Be sincere with yourself. There is no manual, but you can create the manual. And then the manual is a treasure inside the child. Give yourself the opportunity to learn on the journey.
Wow.
And then the beauty of the beauty of parenting is, even though we say single parenting, you didn't bring this child into this world as a single, quote and unquote. There is a partner to it. For whatever reason, that other person might not be in the picture, but they can be something like that. Somebody, I remember when I was in Nigeria without my husband, and the boys were with me. I had people like you, Uncle Victor. Do you understand? I had my husband's brothers. I had my sisters. You know, you don't have to do the journey by yourself. Seek help. Ask questions. Be deliberate. Now, I'm going to echo this, not just to parents, not just to fathers, rather, but to every parent. Be deliberate about the relationship you keep.
Brilliant.
Because of your children, be deliberate about the relationship you keep. There are some relationships that will break your children, and there are some that will build your children. But you know, not just one that will break your children, they will first of all start from breaking you yourself. So check your relationships. I'm not going to walk. You remember when I was saying I was consulting with somebody? This is a person that was paying me. And you kept calling your son a cow. I had to say, stop. This relationship is coming to an end. Except you fix this. And this is one thing I need you to fix. So it's you being ready to fix that thing in you. And then when you fix it, we can move on. Do you understand? So be open to fix yourself as a father. Be ready to learn as you go. Be ready to seek help when you need it. And allow the other deliberate, intentional, and good parties in your life be a support system to you on the journey.
Phenomenal.
And before I go, read books. Do research. Ask questions. And you know, the truth of the matter is, there is hardly ever anything we're going through that has not happened to somebody before. That is not common to man. The human race. My son was talking about his driving test is meant to have done it since April last year. He's not done it. The boy is a professional driver. He drives me to London and everywhere, but he can't drive by himself. It frustrates him. We've tried to explain to him, and I just asked one other parent, I said, what are you doing about this your child that is here to drive? Everything. Say, and we talked about it. And you know what? Even though I'm a parenting consultant, I borrowed some tips from that. And I came home and we had a conversation. Apparently, what she said was, I just had a conversation with her. A girl in our own case. I just had a conversation with her. Sometimes for boys, it might not be as easy as it is for girls. But luckily, I went him, see, son, let's talk. And we sat down. We weighed the pros and the cons, our values and everything back and forth. And okay, we're good. And it comes to a case of, when I want to go out, Mom, can I drive you? Yeah, sure. And that solves the problem. Seek help. Talk about this thing. You know, and then bring in the wisdom. The one that is not good, throw it out. The one that is good, bring it in.
Fantastic. I like what you said. Parenting is a journey. Because sometimes, as fathers and as parents, generally speaking, we have this unrealistic expectation for ourselves. Because you are so like, oh, my dad didn't do a good job. I want to do a good job. Then you now take it to another extreme. You need to create that balance. One, two, put yourself in a community of people that are also doing on that journey with you. Some people 5 years ahead of you on this journey, 10 years ahead of this journey. Some people will be pairs, some people will be, there's something about iron sharpening iron. You can also learn. Another thing that you say that I like, I'm joking at any time. Another thing that you said that I like is, be vulnerable and listen to your child. Can you imagine asking your child, how well do you think I'm doing as a parent? Or what are your expectations of me as a parent?
Yeah, I asked it.
That question can open a Pandora box. But if you are mature enough to handle the conversation, and not just to use that conversation to more like as an opportunity to achieve your own agenda. Sometimes we walk into a meeting without an agenda, because parents, sometimes we have agenda. We have it's like what we call in research, we call it armchair theorizing or self-fulfilling prophecy. We already want to have an outcome we want to achieve. They will now begin to use all kind of manipulative moves to be able to achieve that move. And then the children begin to catch on.
Yeah.
When they catch on, your words lose power, because right, you can see you as someone they can't trust. And there is nothing as dangerous as being in a relationship with someone who doesn't trust you. It can be from not just from a spouse, it can be from your child. When your child doesn't trust you, you say, I will do this, and they're just looking at you. And they will get to that point where it doesn't matter what you say anymore. By then, they've already branded you as someone who doesn't keep promises. And that's it for
So then she talked about be the change you want to see. So if you're asking them to drop some relationships and they are still looking at you and wondering why these people are hanging around you, then it's misfiring.
Absolutely.
So you need
and give yourself opportunity to grow. It's a journey. You will learn. Another thing I like that you also said is immerse yourself in it. Sometimes because sometimes I've seen parents, sometimes we can be quite, I think this is a harsh word to use, but we can be quite not open to learning, in the sense that you just have this image in your head that, okay, this is what my father didn't do well, I will improve on those, forgetting that your child is in a different generation. Your father raised you for a certain era. This is a different era. Understand the game plan for this era. And and that means humbling yourself to go and seek the people that have the wisdom.
Wisdom, yeah.
There are people that have documented material, documented resources on this subject, and try and find out. Understand the child that God has given to you, because every child is unique. You can't use the same game plan for every child. That's simply to be different. So, wow, this has been an amazing session.
Okay, so very quickly, can you tell us about what you do? I know you talked about Dad's and I dinner.
Yeah.
So tell us about what you have on.
Just before I talk about that, there's something I wrote here while you were talking that I felt I would just mention out in terms of mending the relationship between you and your son as fathers. Two things. I was in another interview a few months ago, and somebody said, my son does not, or my teenager doesn't talk to me about her friends. And I just asked the question. I said, do you know your friends? What do you say about your friends where they are? And the lady just kept quiet, and I said, now, another reason why our children move away from us is the way we treat ourselves. The way my husband treats me.
Yes.
And you're telling me you love me, and the child is looking.
Spot on.
If you're treating the person you love that way,
Spot on.
Yeah.
I've got no chance.
Yes.
Another thing they're looking at is when we're driving in the car, we're coming from church. What are you saying about Mr. and Mrs. XYZ? What are you saying about your friends?
Wow.
There was a day I got to church. There is this particular teenager that, we're always hugging and pecking and, oh, my best auntie, my best darling. I got to church the following week, and the teenager was And I was wondering what happened. Later on, I found out that the parent had said something about a message I preached in church in the car.
Okay.
Wow.
And, you know, the teenager withdrew from me. And then when the parents were with me and we're chatting and playing in church, the teenager was just looking. And I'm sure in the head of that child, the child is wondering, but you said this about her. You know that kind of feeling. I'm like, so be careful. Let's be careful the things we say in the present. Whatever they said I did, we talked about, it was not something I said while I was preaching that she got wrong. So whatever it is, deal with it. Whatever it is, Uncle Victor, we'll talk. But if you're not going to talk to me and you just feel comfortable to talk to your wife about it, happy days.
Absolutely.
But do not run your relationships down
Absolutely.
in the presence of your children.
Spot
It's
on.
a killer.
Spot on.
And that's why our children do not introduce their friends to us.
Mm.
Because if you can run your friend down, I'm not going to allow you to run my friend down. And remember, they're very protective of their friends at that age. Because that's, you know, it means a lot to them. So I'm not going to open up that channel for you.
Wow.
And then before you know it, they're withdrawing because they want to protect themselves and their own relationships.
Awesome.
Sorry, I just thought I'll mention that very quickly.
Thank you for
fine.
pointing that out. That's very instructive.
Spot on.
Yes. And whilst you, as you tell us about what you do, tell us where we can find you.
Yes.
Oh, okay. What I do, I'm a parent. I'm very big on. I'm sure you must have noticed my very big on parenting teenage boys. I feel, you know, I'm a consultant, and I feel there's a lot that we need to get right with parenting our teenage boys to be able to bring out the best in them. There's a lot in them. Like I said earlier on, they're deep, and as parents, it's our work to be able to bring them out. And I know that sometimes we struggle. It doesn't mean it cannot be mended. And that's why I come in to help work with parents to mend the relationship between the sons and themselves, particularly fathers, as well as work with those teenage boys. I've got a couple of programs. We've got what we call Boys to Men and Boys for Real. The Boys to Men is what I said, a framework that we built during the last pandemic for boys between 17 and 21 years old. So it is an elite finishing school for boys who are transiting from being teenagers to becoming world-class men and leaders and fathers. So it's like a finishing school. And, you know, when I got that vision, the story that came to my head was, you know, when in those days, so many years ago, when boys are becoming men, they would take them to the farm or to the bush and do some trainings for them and all of those things. And then they come back and give them a test. When they pass it, then they say they are men. Whatever training that is, whether it was suitable or not, but that's the framework. These boys are becoming men. We've created a framework to help them through that transition. You know, 7 key areas they need to be able to get right in their life. And that's what is in the Boys to Men Institute. For the Boys for Real Academy, it's a more relaxed one, not as intensive, but it's also a training institute for boys, for teenage boys who are growing and being able to, you know, get their culture, their esteem, and their integrity in place as they grow to become adults. And the one that, you know, when they announced that the lockdown is lifting, I felt, we're going to be having Dad and I dinner this year. So Dad and I dinner is a platform that is very dear to my heart. It's at the core of what I do. And it's a dinner and a special dinner, a black tie event for fathers and their sons, you know, to help mend the relationship. Just fathers and sons. They travel into the venue by themselves. No mom, no sister, no woman to intrude, and they come in. And we've had testimonies of where they travel together. Mom has paid for dad and son to come. They travel together, not saying a word to themselves until they get to the venue. But on their way back, And even at home, the mom is calling, what did you guys do at that dinner? These people won't stop talking. Can you imagine? They are going for football together. They never did. It's just being able to create that atmosphere to be able to help them build the foundation, rebuild the foundation of their relationship, and go back home, to continue to build on it. And where am I? On Instagram? Yeah, on Instagram, on Facebook, and Bukola. Well, Kiki is in the middle. Bukola Kiki Jolugbo. Or if you just type Joshua's Army as well, we're there on Instagram and on Facebook. And my email address is Kiki Kiki at Joshua's Army.co.uk or Kikishus at gmail.com. So KIKI.
We'll leave the details.
Yes.
Thank you. And just reach out to me. Anything teenage boys, I'm here for you.
Very it's been really nice having you on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So practical. There's been so much to glean from it.
Absolutely.
I'm glad. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm really, really grateful. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, the pleasure is ours.
Okay.
Thank you
to
so much.
all our viewers, and thank you for being so engaging.
Yes.
We enjoyed our time with you. So until we come your way again, it's goodbye from us. Thanks for engaging.
Thank you.
Thank you.